What's up, brother?
All right, brothers. Want to get a shot at the vendors. Appreciate y'all coming out, man. Iron Hotel. And you still have the AM show on?
Yeah, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Yeah, I'll be on this coming Sunday.
Good stuff, good stuff.
For the favored, wife, they said it was a title.
Bless, appreciate you.
What's your name?
Ben Washington.
Okay, are you with the Shrine?
No, I actually found out this through Aaron, through the Detroit Black Farmers Land Fund.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the two of us.
That's what they took away.
It took a lot.
That's why my mom, she was always good.
We'd love to, again, do it again next year. You could do it here and that's true.
Your Republican politics, not less than your Republican religion, are flagrantly inconsistent. You boast of your love of liberty, your superior civilization, and your pure Christianity, while the whole political power of the nation, as embodied in the two great political parties, is solemnly pledged to support and perpetuate the enslavement of 3 million of your countrymen. You hurl yourselves on your democratic institutions, while you yourselves consent to be the mere tools and bodyguards of the tyrants of Virginia and Carolina. You invite to your shores fugitives of oppression from abroad, honor them with banquets, greet them with ovations, cheer them, toast them, salute them, protect them, and pour out your money to them like water. But the fugitives from your own land you advertise, hunt, arrest, shoot, and kill. You glory in your refinement and your universal education, yet you maintain a system as barbarous and dreadful as has ever stained the character of a nation, a system begun in avarice, supported in pride, and perpetuated in cruelty. But fellow citizens, I will not enlarge further on your national inconsistencies. The existence of slavery in this country brands your republicanism as a sham, your humanity as a base pretense, and your Christianity as a lie. It destroys your moral power abroad. It corrupts your politicians at home. It saps the foundation of religion. It makes your name a hissing, and by a word to a mocking earth. It is the antagonistic force in your government, the only thing that seriously disturbs and endangers your union. It fetters your progress. It is the enemy of improvement, the deadly foe of education. It fosters pride. It breeds insolence. It promotes vice. It shelters crime. It is a curse to the earth that supports it, and yet you cling to it as if it were the sheet anchor of all your hopes. But oh, be warned, be warned. A hostile reptile is coiled up in your nation's bosom. The venomous creature is nursing at the tender breast of your youthful republic. For the love of God, tear it away and fling from you the hideous monster, and let the weight of 20 millions crush and destroy it forever.
Can you say Chokwe? Lumumba. The next song we're going to do is dedicated to and named in honor of one of our Detroit's very own spiritual warriors, hardcore black nationalist, separatist, activist, advocate for the people. As an attorney, even in law school, he led several protests and demonstrations at Wayne State University's law school, seeking justice and righteousness within that racist institution. He also defended the likes of Tupac Shakur and other members of the BLA and the Republic of New Africa and the New African People's Organization. He was the second provisional vice president of the New African People's Republic. He was born August the 2nd in 1947 and made his transition February the 14th. Along with being an activist, a community revolutionary militant, an advocate for the people, he also became a city council person in Jackson, Mississippi, and would go on to become the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi And this is very important because part of the New African People's, the Republic of New Africa's plan was they advocated for the creation of a black nation by demanding 5 states in the South for black people to build and create our own nation. And part of their strategy as this became protracted, and this goes to his strategy of getting elected into political office, so they began to try to work within the confines of in the institutions of the United States. He's Detroit's own, and we like to honor him as we do always when we play this song by presenting to you Chokwe Lumumba. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. After he passed and after one attempt, his son Chokwe Antar Lumumba would go on to follow in his footsteps, and he's the current mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. And that goes back to what we started with, this idea of a revolutionary spirit being born anew in each generation. Thank you for helping me to remember that. We present to you Chokwe Lumumba.
All right. By an act of the American Congress not yet 2 years old, slavery has been nationalized in its most horrible and revolting form. By that act, Mason and Dixon's line has been obliterated, New York has become as Virginia, and the power to hold, hunt, and sell men, women, and children as slaves no longer remains a mere state institution, but is now an institution of the whole United States. For black men, there are neither law, justice, humanity, nor religion. The fugitive slave law makes mercy to them a crime and bribes the judge who tries them. An American judge gets $10 for every victim he consigns to slavery, and 5 when he fails to do so. The oath of any 2 villains is sufficient under this hell-black enactment to send the most pious and exemplary black man into the remorseless jaws of slavery. His own testimony is nothing. He can bring no witnesses for himself. The minister of American justice is bound by the law to hear but one side, and that side is the side of the oppressor. Let this damning fact be perpetually told. Let it be thundered around the world that in tyrant-killing, king-hating, people-loving, democratic, Christian America, that the seats of justice are filled with judges who hold their offices under an open and palpable bribe, and are bound in deciding in the case of a man's liberty to hear only his accusers. I take this law to be one of the grossest infringements of Christian liberty, and if the churches and ministers of our country were not stupidly blind or most wickedly indifferent, they too would so regard it. At the very moment that they are thanking God for the enjoyment of civil and religious liberty, and for the right to worship God according to the dictates of their own consciences, they are utterly silent in respect to a law which robs religion of its chief significance and makes it utterly worthless to a world lying in wickedness. The fact that this church of our country does not esteem the fugitive slave law as a declaration of war against religious liberty implies that the church regards religion simply as a form of worship, an empty ceremony, and not a vital principle that requires active benevolence, justice, love, and goodwill towards man. It esteems sacrifice above mercy, psalm singing above right doing, solemn meetings above practical righteousness. A worship that can be conducted by persons who refuse to give shelter to the houseless, to give bread to the hungry, clothing to the naked, and who enjoin obedience to a law forbidding these acts of mercy is a curse, not a blessing, to mankind.
Thank you once again, Mama Erin. Let's give her another round of applause. And everyone say Asata Shakur. Asada Shakur. The next song we're going to perform for you is dedicated and named in honor of our dear sister Asada Shakur, who was activist, or is an activist. She was part of the Black Panther Party and very active in the Black Liberation Army, which was a lesser known militant entity of our black struggle. She was arrested in 1973. Let me back up and say she was born in New York in 1947. And she joined the BLA in the early 70s. I think it was 1971. She was arrested in 1973 for the alleged murder of a state trooper. She was incarcerated for several years, but brothers like George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, Nat Turner, Chokwe Lumumba, and others went into a prison in New Jersey and got her out. Said, this is one sister you are not taking. We're not going to let her be subjected to this penal system. Not only did they get her out of that New Jersey state prison, they got her to Cuba, which has been pretty much a liberated zone as far as we know. Right? Hello?
Yeah.
And she has persisted there. And every now and then you see Republican candidates emerge and they put on their platform, we're going to bring Joanne Chismar, that's what they call her. Her name is Assata Shakur. We're going to bring her back. They use this as a political argument to try to bolster their votes. But we're going to continue to call on that same spirit that brought us a Frederick Douglass, a Nat Turner, a Marcus Garvey, and an Assata Shakur, and we now introduce to you our song, another original composition, Assata. Because we know it was a journalist rendering. But what we do know, according to the story, is that he felt he was inspired by God to lead the rebellion. And of the rebellions in the United States, Nat Turner's rebellion was the one that was closest to being successful. In that rebellion, there were 69 white people killed. And again, as I said before, somebody that got scared decided they needed to let the massa know what we were doing. But again, now the Nat Turner Rebellion went down in 1830 in Richmond, Virginia. And by 1830, the Haitian Revolution had already succeeded by almost 30 years. It's very important that we know and connect the dots between these rebellions. Our ancestors never stopped rebelling.
So yes, so what we do is we raise funds to help black farmers here in Detroit purchase vacant land so that they can grow food, right? So you see we have Mama Hanifa's awesome, wonderful garden over here. We have black people all over Detroit who are trying so hard and have been doing this work. A lot of people at the beginning of the pandemic, when we first started, there were a lot of people who were growing on land and they couldn't afford to purchase it, right? So they've been doing all this work, mowing these lawns, planting these things, giving free produce to their neighbors, getting produce to the elderly people in their community, doing things that were necessary and that needed to be done, but they couldn't afford, the land bank had priced the land so high that they couldn't afford to buy it. And so we were really concerned at the beginning of the pandemic, like we didn't want the city kind of like selling this land out from under people and taking their crops. So this happened before. And so the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, Keep Growing Detroit, and Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, which are three long-standing urban farming organizations in Detroit, came together to form the coalition that is the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. Myself and three other black women agriculturalists are the stewards of the fund, so we are just the representatives that do the work of our respective organizations. Thank you very much. So again, my name is Aaron Preston Johnson Bevel. I'm on the board of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, along with Dr. Shakira Tyler, who is our board president. We come from DBCFSN, who was just here. She had to she was actually dropping off some scales for some of our farmers to weigh produce, and she had to get going. But Tefira Rushton is a co-director at Keep Growing Detroit, and Jerry Hebron is our matriarch. She is the executive director of Oakland Avenue Urban Farm in the North End. So we are the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. We've been doing this work for 3 years now. We started on Juneteenth 2020. We thought we were going to raise $5,000 for black farmers. We raised $5,000 in like a day. And so we have continued to just continue getting, we want 30 more farmers on land. I have some flyers I can show you. There's a map. There are 70 projects that we've been able to fund over the last 3 years. This year we're trying to raise $80,000. It sounds like a big number, but we want to get up to 100 total projects in the city of Detroit on vacant land for black urban farmers. So this is huge. What we are able to do is phenomenal. We wouldn't be able to do it, though, if we didn't stand on the shoulders of institutions like the Shrine and other institutions that have paved the way for us, DBCFSN, all kinds of other people. We're new, but we're so honored to do this work, and I really appreciate you all being here and contributing whatever you can to our cause. So thank you so much. I do have some t-shirts. I only have like 2X and up, and I have children's sizes. But yes, and this is it's kind of like, it's a kind of a big deal. People have been wearing it everywhere. It's kind of like iconic. We love it. There will be some more t-shirts available on our website in the next week or so. Our website is DetroitBlackFarmer.com. So thank you.
You all can do better than that. Come on. Now, I just want to remind you again, the restrooms are there. They're clean. Take advantage of it. You know, you've been here a long time. We appreciate you. Also, we have vendors. We have the Detroit African History Network. We have Mama Nefertiti of Truth Bookstore, who was formerly a manager of the Shrine of the Black Madonna Culture Sister. We have a dear sister that has healthy burgers for sale.
And they good.
Detroit Bougie Burgers. So, no Mac nothing, right?
No, I think she has some meat.
I said Mac. You know, as in Golden Arches. No Mac nothing. Okay? So you can get some healthy food.
We're getting some good stuff. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. And oh, had I the ability, and I could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder.
Yeah.
We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed.
Yeah.
And its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced. What, to the American slave, is your 4th of July?
Yeah.
I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgiving, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. It is, however, a notable fact that while so much execration is poured out by Americans on those engaged in the foreign slave trade, the men engaged in the slave trade between the states pass without condemnation, and their business is deemed honorable. I was born amidst such sights and scenes. To me, the American slave trade is a terrible reality. When a child, my soul was often pierced with a sense of its horrors, and I have watched from the wharves the slave ships in the basin, anchored from the shore, with their cargoes of human flesh, waiting for favorable winds to waft them down the Chesapeake. The fate of many a slave has depended upon the turn of a single card, and many a child has been snatched from the arms of his mother by bargains arranged in a state of brutal drunkenness. In the deep, still darkness of midnight, I have often been aroused by the dead heavy footsteps and the piteous cries of the chained gangs that passed our doors. The anguish of my boyish heart was intense, and I was often consoled when speaking to my mistress in the morning to hear her say that the custom was very wicked, that she hated to hear the rattle of the chains and the heart-rending cries. I was glad to find one who sympathized with me in my horror. Is this the land your fathers loved, the freedom which they toiled to win? Is this the earth whereon they moved? Are these the graves they slumber in? My subject then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day and its popular characteristics from the slave's point of view. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. Must I undertake to prove that the slave is a man? That point is conceded already. Nobody doubts it. The slaveholders themselves acknowledge it in the enactment of laws for their government. But for the present, it is enough to affirm the equal manhood of the Negro race. It is not astonishing that while we are plowing, planting, and reaping, using all kinds of mechanical tools, erecting houses, constructing bridges, building ships, working in metals of brass, iron, copper, silver, and gold, that while we are reading, writing, and ciphering, acting as clerks, merchants, and secretaries, having among us lawyers, doctors, ministers, poets, authors, editors, orators, and teachers, that while we are engaged in all manner of enterprises common to other men, digging gold in California, capturing the whale in the Pacific, feeding sheep and cattle on the hillside, living, moving, acting, thinking, planning, living in families as husbands, wives, and children, and above all, confessing and worshiping the Christian's God, and looking hopefully for life and immortality beyond the grave, yet we are called upon to prove that we are men. What am I to argue? That it is wrong to make men brutes, to rob them of their liberty, to work them without wages, to keep them ignorant of their relations to their fellow men, to beat them with sticks, to flay their flesh with the lash, to load their limbs with irons, to hunt them with dogs, sell them at auction, sunder their families, knock out their teeth, to bum their flesh, to starve them into obedience and submission to their masters? Must I argue that a system thus marked with blood and stained with pollution is wrong? No, I will not. I will have better employments for my time and strength than such arguments would imply. What then remains to be argued? Is it that slavery is not divine, that God did not establish it, that our doctors of divinity are mistaken? There is blasphemy in the thought. That which is inhuman cannot be divine. Who can reason on such a proposition? That they can, but I cannot. The time for such arguments has passed. And we still face struggles like that today. There's misogyny. So this next tune, which was done by Diane Reeves, Endangered Species, deals with that. The history that women had to deal with, still do. I am an endangered species, but I sing no victim song. I am a woman, I am an artist, and I know where my voice belongs. Species, but I sing no victim song. I am a woman, I am an artist. I know it.